What's up, control freaks? Welcome back to the channel. Les Alex here, and today we are heading back to Pioneer because Dimir control has been absolutely cooking recently. This list is from the 4th place deck that got 4th place in the Pioneer Challenge on 6/16. Shout out to Oaf McNamara. They put this absolutely gorgeous deck list together. Before we get into it and I tell you my thoughts and we break down the deck list, I do want to let you know that if you enjoy this content, like the video, comment down below what you think about the deck list and what you would change. If this deck is not your speed, or if you think Azorius control is just better right now, let me know in the comment section. I would love to chop it up with you, and I respond to all the comments that aren't absolute hating jabronis. And of course, subscribe if you like content like this. I'm pumping out these kind of videos. I really like this style, and you all seem to as well. But wait, there's more. If you dig the content enough to support the content in a more direct way, you can now become a member here on YouTube by just... for less than a cup of coffee, you can help support the content right here on YouTube. You don't have to go to Patreon or anything like that. Right here on YouTube. It would mean the world and help me, keep making these videos. Anyways, let's get into this deck tech. What is Dimir control and why are we playing it over Azorius control? You know, throughout the history of Magic the Gathering, Dimir control has always been the little brother, kind of Azorius and Jeskai control. But in Pioneer, I've been playing and I've been absolutely cooking my locals with Dimir control. I've tried this, a very similar version to this, and I've also tried Reawaken control with Jace Reawaken, Plotting Valky, Casting Tibalt, but that's not what we're doing here in this deck. This is just pure control, no combos, no nothing like that. We have pure control. Why would we play this, though? Well, this card right here, Thoughtseize, is an absolute banger. This card, pound for pound, in my opinion, the best card in the format. It allows you, as a control player, especially in a control deck. It's one thing if you're playing it in a mid-range deck, but it's a whole nother animal when you are a control deck and you have access to Thoughtseize, because holy smokes, it allows you to prepare for the rest of the game. And it is just, there's no card like it in Magic, and it basically just disregards all text boxes other than if it's a land, obviously. But yeah, that is one of the main sticking points. And we do get Fatal Push, because Fatal Push is just the most efficient removal spell in the format. You are able to stave off aggro decks because of Fatal Push plus Shieldred's Edict. You're really, because of Shieldred's Edict also, you're not too worried about resolved Planeswalkers. So, yeah, I mean, this deck is so good. Now, one thing you might be scratching your head, like, Alex, how does this deck win? We don't have any, like, Haymakers. There's not even a Torrential Gearhulk, which usually we do see alongside things like Dig Through Time. But in this deck, McNamara, Oaf McNamara, has elected to not even play one, and honestly, I'm kind of a fan. I'm kind of a fan of slimming down on the win conditions, because eventually you're gonna get there. I will say, though, in this deck, with just in my time playing decks similar to this, and I mean very similar, we might have been 5 cards off of our 75, which is how close our deck lists are. You get down low, real low on, I want a game with like 6 cards left in my library. Your main win conditions, though, Shark Typhoon. In this list, we've got 3. You have some creature lands as well. Hall of Storm Giants, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, and Restless Reef, which is the new one from LCI. But you do have to be very cognizant of when you are deploying these, because Shark Typhoon being your main win condition alongside a Hall or one of the other creature lands, you can, if you're in a pinch, you can fire them off to, make a 1/1 or make a 0, and then have shenanigans, because it kind of combos with Fatal Push. You can make a 0. Technically, the 0/0 shark enters and then leaves, so then you do technically have Revolt, so you can combo it with that. But really, you want to hold on to your Shark Typhoons till later in the game. If you ever get to resolve one, it's insane. I wouldn't recommend ever doing that against any green deck, but if you ever do get to resolve one, you're probably going to win, as long as you're not severely behind on board. It's very similar, oddly, to resolving a Tybalt when you're playing the Reawakened version. But yeah, so those are your win conditions. Not many, right? Other than your opponent conceding. But if you are playing against a opponent that knows the format and kind of knows what's going on with this deck, they're not going to concede, at least at first, until all hope has been lost, when they have like maybe 1 or 2 cards in hand and we're on turn like literal 10 to 12. So, but also Takenuma is here, so you can return Narset to hand for some extra value late in the game if you need it. Of course, we have Otawara to bounce tricky permanents. But yeah, let's go through this. We've got 2 Narsets. This is our Planeswalker of choice. It is the way that we get through our deck. It finds basically everything. Unless you need lands, Narset is your best option. Moving on to the sorceries, we've got 3 Deadly Cover-Ups and 1 Extinction Event. Now, Deadly Cover-Up is really nice because you can collect evidence. You can, against Phoenix, you can tag their bird. Against Amalia, you can either hit Wild Growth Walker or Amalia. And this happens, this exile, this surgical extraction effect happens after the Wrath has resolved. So you get to tag their combo piece or their Vein Ripper or anything like that. You get to tag it, rip it out of their deck. Whew, you win games on the spot sometimes when you tag this, or when you tag a relevant creature with this. And against control, if you ever destroy, say you Shieldred's Edict, a fun play is you can just Deadly Cover-Up to rip out all of their Teferis or all of their Wandering Emperors. It's a pretty hot play. Now, it is 5 mana, and you don't, obviously, you're not usually wrathing many creatures against the mirror, but still, gotta have wraths in a control deck these days. The creatures are just too good, which is why we're playing both Deadly Cover-Up and Extinction Event. Extinction Event, very good against Boros Convoke. Pretty good against the Prowess decks. They do have Slickshot Show-Off and a bunch of 1s, so oftentimes you will have to decide, but 4 mana Wrath is still a 4 mana Wrath, and it does exile, which is nice. But the only downside, you have to choose even or odd casting costs. So that can be, no card's perfect, but Extinction Event can bridge the gap to the late game for sure. Moving on, we do have Censor, this card. People just aren't expecting it anymore. Just straight up, and at the very worst, in the late game, you can just cycle it. Then we have Clean to Dust. Y'all, one of the most overperforming cards. When you look at this card, you're like, yeah, it's pretty good, but like, maybe we could play something else. No. Trust me, if you're playing Dimir Control, you need to be playing Clean to Dust, because against the aggro decks, you can exile one of their creatures, gain 3 life, and then you can do it again later in the game. Also, if you're needing to draw land or you need to draw some gas, you can exile a like, I've had times where I've hit my own Fatal Pushes just to be able to draw a card. Not optimal, but it does come up more than you would think. We do have Deduce as a 4 of. This card is very, very good in this deck because you have 3 steps ahead, which allows you to occasionally copy a token, or an artifact, rather. And, of course, Deduce gives you that clue token when you investigate. Dig Through Time. The reason we play Dig Through Time is because we have things like Thoughtseize, we have Fatal Push, we have Shieldred's Edict. Our curve in this deck is much lower. You can censor, so you can constantly be churning through your deck, and by turn 4 or 5, this thing's not that much mana. And then Fatal Push, I've already talked about this card. Absolutely the best piece of removal in the format. Basically hits all of the relevant cards, or creatures rather, in the format. We've got 3 Fatal Pushes, or I'm sorry, 3 Memory Deluges. Just again, an excellent card. If you've ever got to resolve the flashback of this, you know how strong this is. It is just a dig through time for 7 mana. However, you get to do it for 4, and then late in the game, it is just sometimes a game ender on its own. We got 2 negates. A lot of what we want to counter in this deck are simply just non-creature spells. So negate's almost a perfect spell in this because we have a lot of ways to kill creatures in this deck, as you can see. Then we got Shieldred's Edict. Again, not a perfect removal spell for creatures, but an excellent removal spell for planeswalkers, which you can sometimes allow to resolve if you don't have a counter spell in hand. Shieldred's Edict is pretty good at cleaning those up. 3 steps ahead. This card, at its base, at its worst, is a cancel. This is, however, in my opinion, the best cancel we've ever seen in Pioneer. Counterspell for 3, you can create a token that's a copy of an artifact or creature you control. So sometimes you get to copy sharks, but you can also copy the Investigate token, which is a clue. And then you can draw 2, then discard a card. And remember, because of Spree, you could potentially do all of these things. You get to draw 2 cards, discard a card, make a token, or make a copy of an artifact, or counter a spell. You can do all 3 of those. And when you do, trust me, you're probably not losing that game. Moving on, again, we talked already about Shark Typhoon. This is the game winner. You want to kind of sandbag these to the late game. This is your main win condition. So, yeah, keep that in mind. And then the mana base, again, Hall of Storm Giants. What I can say about this card and all the creature lands in this deck, it's not like Azorius Control. You don't have win conditions on top of win conditions. You don't have the Wandering Emperor. You don't have Teferi. You know, these Halls and Hive the Eye Tyrant and Restless Reefs are going to be how you win a good majority of games. So you need to protect them. You need to make sure that they don't have anything. So be very patient and very deliberate with how you attack. And when you make your when you start to turn the corner in this deck, it is often a lot later than you would in an Azorius Control deck. But trust me, if you're patient, you will win more games because you're going to get blown out by a Fatal Push or something. And it's not going to be good. You're going to lose the game and you're going to be like, man, if only I would have been patient, had my opponent hellbent, and then I could have started bashing face with Hall of Storm Giants. Now, I get it. Sometimes you have to. You got to do what you got to do if it's a race, but try to wait as long as possible. Moving on to the sideboard, we've got 2 blotouts. This card is excellent against Amalia. Excellent against Vein Rippers. So definitely blot out as a 2 of. I like it. 2 Chrome Host Seed Shark. This is great against any decks that want to fly over and kill you. And it's just so much value. I was very skeptical of when this card was previewed, but it is a lot better than I gave it credit for. Go Blank. This is kind of the protect all. You put this in every black deck sideboard in Pioneer. It's a good card. It's great against any deck that's trying to take you to the late game. Moving on, we got Go for the Throat. I have been playing main deck Go for the Throats. I've liked them. It's not a perfect card, though, in the main deck, but very strong coming out of the side when you know what to expect. We've got Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Oftentimes, you will win games just off the back of this card, because if you flip this bad boy, holy smokes. Good night, Irene. This card is excellent. We've got Kalitas for the aggro matchups. Having lifelink and being able to generate tokens, little zombie tokens, is awesome. We've got Mystical Dispute and Narset's Reversal. Obviously, these coming in again. Narset's Reversal, really good against Lotus. Mystical Dispute coming in against the Mirror. Path to Peril, again, against all the little aggro decks. You have no way to cleave this card in our deck, but still a very good piece that you will need. Meat Hook Massacre, again, against the aggro decks, of course. And then Thoughtseize, just a good catch-all. in the matchups where you think you need them. So control, combo decks, I would definitely bring those in against. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I think this deck is actually, if you are a control player in Pioneer, you should be playing Dimir Control. I know that Azorius Control has a huge following, and I spread Azorius propaganda quite often on this channel. But I am in my Dimir phase now. Dimir Control is where it's at in Pioneer. I love this deck. I've had a ton of success at my locals. Nerd Rage STL is coming up. I'm going to be there. I will probably be playing a version of Dimir. If you see me there, come say hi. I'll have stickers and stuff. But yeah, let me know. Let me know. What do you think about Dimir Control? And again, shout out to Oaf McNamara for the top 4 in the Pioneer Challenge today. And yeah, I'm really stoked for this deck. I'm going to play it actually tomorrow at my local, so check my socials and see how well I do. But yeah, I'm stoked for this. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Again, I'm going to shill for the members. If you want to join the membership here on YouTube, get access to the videos early, and you get emotes and are able to chat whenever I'm live. It would mean the world to me. I appreciate you all. Keep spreading that Dimir propaganda. Be kind to one another. I'll catch y'all on the flippy flop. Adios.